Alright guys, I know I look a little dark on here because the light of the screen is, pushing me out a little bit. That's okay. Once again, I want you to write these things down as I go through them because they are important plot points, and also because our discussion is next class period on Friday, and it is, a little quick. These things will help you just get a clear picture of what's happening, kind of fill in the blanks if there are some things you missed while you're reading the chapter. So, chapter 16. This chapter really deals with things that are happening right before the trial. For the first half of it, Atticus is heading off to the courthouse. He tells the kids not to go there, but of course they don't listen because they never do. And then they go see all the people who are coming to the courthouse, and it's like everybody. Like, people are having picnics in front of the courthouse before it starts. So it's really kind of an event for the city. When they are in front of the courthouse, kind of looking at who's there, we meet a character named Dolphus Raymond. And he doesn't really show up like more towards the end of the book. He's more like a courthouse chapter figure. But he's important to note because Scout and Jem are talking about him, and Jem, Scout wants to know, what Dolphus Raymond's deal is, and Jem begins to tell her, and he says that he's the town drunk, so he's like in his carriage, he's driving his horses, and he's sitting in the front with like a bottle in a paper bag. And Jem says that he drinks so much because he married a black woman and is now like a city outcast. People don't accept him for who he is, and for his choice to marry a black woman. And also, they have mixed race children. One thing when we watched the video about the origins of lynching culture, there is a bit of a difference between a black man interacting with a white woman, which is a big no-no. That's, what the whole trial is for. But there's less stigma about a white man interacting with black women. And, he's still an outcast. He's still not, like, accepted in society, but it's not like Tom Robinson, where people are going to show up on Dolphus Raymond's doorstep and either try to lynch him or his wife, right? They just think he's, everybody thinks he's so drunk, he just kind of, married a black woman, and that's kind of what he's doing. One thing that Jem says is that the children between Dolphus and his wife are considered black children, because he says you have to have at least one drop of Negro blood and you are considered black. And this is actually a historical thing where during slavery and after, if there was an ancestor that you could track who was black, then you are black, no matter how fair your skin may look. Because Scout's like, these kids basically, they look white, like why is everybody against them? And Jem's like, well, because everybody knows that their mother is a black woman. All right. We also reaffirm, and kind of found out before, but we reaffirm that Atticus was appointed to defend Tom, so it's not like he went up to the courthouse and was like, yeah, I'll do it, I volunteer. Atticus was appointed, but people are angry because Atticus is actually trying to defend Tom. All right. Anybody else might have just kind of, had a baloney case put together for Tom and wouldn't have really tried, but Atticus is actually trying. And then at the end of the chapter, the kids meet up with Reverend Sykes from Calpurnia's church, and he invites the kids to sit in the colored balcony. And that is symbolic, right? There's symbolism present in there. There's a reason for that. I'm not going to tell you what the symbolism is, right? You're going to have to kind of figure out why it's unique or important that Atticus Finch's children are sitting in the colored section of the courtroom, because it is segregated. All right. Next, chapter 17. We finally get to testimony. All right. We meet a few new people. We have Judge Taylor, he's the judge of the city, and we have Mr. Gilmer, who is Bob Ewell's lawyer. And of course, everybody's going to expect him to defend Bob because even though Bob Ewell is trash and people around town don't like him, he is the, part of the white defendant who's trying to bring down a black man. The first testimony we hear in this chapter is from Sheriff Heck Tate. He is the one who, Bob says he called the sheriff. The sheriff came out there. He checked out Mayella. He was kind of seeing, what was going on the day this allegedly happened. And then the second testimony is from Bob Ewell himself. Mayella is his daughter. Mayella is the one this supposedly happened to. Now, I'm not really going to give you information about what was in their testimony, but as you read, I want you to jot down some things about these 5 concepts. I want you to pay attention to these things. First of all, as the sheriff and as Bob are giving their testimony, what did they say about the state of the house or the room that they were in? All right. What did it look like? How was it? How was it looking when the sheriff got there? Secondly, what did they say the state of Mayella was? All right, because they talk about what she looked like when the sheriff got there after this attack happened. Third, and this is for all of the testimony, because there is still testimony in chapter 18, where is Tom during this entire day that this rape allegedly happened? And what was he at the house for in the first place? So some of you might be thinking, well, why was Tom Robinson even there? Why was he even at the Ewell household? So that's something you'll have to pay attention to. Secondly, where is Bob? Where does Bob say he is? Where does the sheriff or Mayella say he is? And what is Bob doing while all of this is supposedly occurring? And then finally, what is Mayella doing? And I will tell you that there are differences between some of these pieces of testimony. So you really have to keep track of, what he said versus she said versus, what is truly going on during this instance. And finally, chapter 18, it's pretty short, but it is Mayella's testimony. That's, what it covers entirely. And this is all about her side of the story. And again, I'm not really going to tell you what her side of the story is, but I'm just going to point you to things you need to kind of keep track of, things that you should think about, and you can center some of your discussion questions around. All right, first of all is, how does society view her, and how does that affect her? All right, so when we talked about vocabulary, it said that she's probably the one keeping care of those flowers on the edge of her yard. So she wants to be a certain way or have certain opportunities, but how is society kind of preventing that, I guess? Secondly, what is the Ewell home life like? We've gotten some third-person perspective, so we've heard Scout and Atticus talk about the Ewells and what the general opinion from the town is, but what does Mayella say her home life is like, or what can you sort of read between the lines as far as what she says? How is Mayella a bit different from her family? All right, that kind of relates to the first point is, who does she want to be versus, what kind of box is she sort of put into? But most importantly, when you look at Mayella's testimony, really try to figure out where she's being inconsistent, all right? Because as she's telling her story changes here and there. So where are the little wobbly parts of her story? And why do you think she might be, well, first of all, what do you think she might be trying to cover up or hide or obscure? And secondly, why would she want to do that? All right. So those are my sort of basic notes for chapters 16, 17, and 18. Hopefully these will help guide you in your reading and also help you to guide some of your discussion questions. Don't forget that you can also use things like what happened in the lynching culture video to guide some of your questions as well. All right, so now that you've gotten through both of my videos, and I'll see if I can, there we go, I'll show up. Now that you've gotten through both of my videos, both vocabulary and this one, here are some of your options. First of all, Friday is the day that my grades are due. So if you have late work, that's kind of like, you need to get it done, you need to turn it into me. So check and see if you have any like discussion makeups you need to do. Check and see if you need to make up any discussion questions or the video assignments that I've given. Otherwise, I do have a place posted up for you to write your new discussion questions for Friday. But ultimately, you do have a chance right now to read chapters 16, 17, and 18. And when I come back on Friday, when we have class, we're going to be ready to rock as far as discussion goes. I cannot guarantee that if you send me emails today that I will be available to answer them. So if there's anything you have questions about, just come and find me tomorrow when I get back. And we'll see where we're at. Thanks, guys.